Hello everyone, Other Helmet Guy here, and today we're talking about Punisher. One Last Kill. I've got some honest thoughts on this show and I'm just here to share my opinion. But before we get into it, if you enjoy my content, don't forget to follow, subscribe and like. It means a lot. Alright, let's get into it. So, Punisher, One Last Kill. My initial thoughts from the trailer were pretty much on point, and I hate to say I was right on this one. This is a story we've seen told many times before. The character development feels very repetitive, nothing we haven't already seen from the Punisher time and time again. Now look, I get it. The action scenes are there and they do try their best to make up for it. The fights are intense, the pacing keeps you watching. But at the end of the day, good action can only carry a show so far. When the story underneath feels like a retread, it just doesn't help as much as they're hoping it would. It's not that it's unwatchable, it's just that if you followed the Punisher before, you're probably going to feel like you've already seen this. Now this version of Frank Castle feels like a man who has accomplished his goals and simply has no motivation left. He's done what he set out to do, he avenged his family, and yet he still can't find peace. So instead he isolates himself, becomes self-destructive, and is completely consumed by his trauma. He's drinking heavily, and he's experiencing vivid hallucinations of people from his past, including his family and close friends who are no longer around. And look, I understand what they're going for here. They want to show a broken man searching for purpose. But here's the thing. This isn't new territory for Marvel, not even close. Jessica Jones dealt with severe PTSD and hallucinations because of the Purple Man throughout her entire first season. Daredevil in Season 3 was hallucinating Kingpin when he hit his lowest point. So this idea of using hallucinations and trauma to show a hero falling apart has already been done, and done well, by other characters in this same universe. So when you see it again here with Frank Castle, it doesn't land with the same weight. It's not that it's bad storytelling on its own, it's that it starts to feel like a formula that Marvel keeps going back to. And when a formula gets reused too many times, it starts to feel directionless rather than meaningful. Like they're checking a box rather than genuinely pushing the character somewhere new. Now I'll admit I don't have a huge amount of knowledge on the Punisher comics, but having read some of them I do find it interesting how each live-action version of the character actually seems to represent a different era of the comics in its own way. Take the Thomas Jane version from 2004, that one feels closer to the Max era of the comics. It's not just about the action, there's more of a psychological and tactical side to how Frank operates in that film. He's manipulating people, getting inside their heads, playing a longer game before he makes his move. Then you've got the Dolph Lundgren version from 1989, and that one feels like it represents the classic early Punisher comics from the 80s. Very straightforward, mission-focused, no nonsense. He's not overthinking anything, he's just cutting through everything in his path, which very much matches that era of the comics. And then Warzone, that one is the most comic accurate of the three. It's pure Garth Ennis style, over the top, brutal, doesn't slow down and doesn't apologize for it. So whether it was intentional or not, each version carved out its own lane that mirrors a different side of the character. I just thought that was an interesting observation worth mentioning. Now when it comes to Jon Bernthal's version, I'm just going to be honest here, I don't think it fully does the character justice. And the reason I say that is because the humanizing approach they took actually feels like a cop-out more than anything else. In the comics Frank Castle is a completely stoic, emotionless soldier. Locked in, focused, he says what needs to be said and nothing more. His trauma is buried so deep it makes him almost impossible to read, and that's what makes him such a fascinating and rare character. And here's the thing. They actually did try that approach at the beginning of Daredevil Season 2. When we first met Bernthal's Punisher, he had that cold, mission-focused energy that felt genuinely close to the comic version. That could have been something special, but as the season went on they slowly moved away from it, and by the end of the series that personality was pretty much gone. So instead of committing to that, what we ended up with is a version that's too talkative, too emotional, and gets caught up in relationship drama that the comic Punisher simply would never bother with. And on top of that, this version is far less tactical and forward-thinking. Unlike the comic version who goes into every situation with a plan, this Punisher tends to just throw himself in and figure it out as he goes, relying on brute force and instinct rather than preparation. That emotionless, tactical, mission-focused soldier done properly would have been something we've genuinely never seen before with this character. And that's the missed opportunity. Now let's talk about the villains in One Last Kill, and this is where it gets interesting. The main antagonist is Ma Gnucci, the matriarch of the Gnucci crime family. Frank had already wiped out her husband and 3 sons before the special even begins, and she comes back wanting revenge for all of it. She puts a bounty on Frank's head, which basically turns the entire neighborhood against him. As a villain she works, she's personal, she's motivated, and she's got genuine reason to hate Frank. But then there's her right-hand man, and if you know your Punisher comics you might have caught this. That character is actually Barracuda. Marvel deliberately kept his name hidden, only listing him as Barry in the credits. And honestly that feels like a missed opportunity because in the comics Barracuda is one of the most iconic and deadly villains the Punisher has ever faced. He's Frank's arch nemesis in the Max series, massively physically imposing, brutally intelligent, cheerfully sadistic, and one of the very few characters who has genuinely pushed Frank to his absolute limit. So to have him show up in the background as a fairly low-key right-hand man, looking nothing like his comic counterpart, that feels like they undersold him massively. If they're setting him up for the future that's one thing, but as an introduction to such a significant character it felt quite underwhelming. But yeah, those are my honest thoughts on Punisher, One Last Kill. It's a missed opportunity more than anything else, and that's probably the most frustrating thing about it. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on it. And as always, thanks for watching.